Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Makakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquathim and listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will, as always, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of just wanted to read through this I guess you can call it like a little bit of an opinion piece article that I came across online, and this was a quote made by this guy named Sam Altman. He says, anything you say to ChatGPT can and will be used against you in court, right? So I kind of just wanted to read through. Oh, it's okay, so he's the CEO. Okay, now I'm just seeing this here. So it says OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has issued serious warning for all those that use ChatGPT for therapy or counsel. Your chats aren't legally protected and could be presented in court during lawsuits. It says people are increasingly turning to chatbots to talk through personal problems. But during a recent appearance on Theo Vaughn's This Past Weekend podcast, it says that Altman warned that OpenAI cannot block those conversations from being used as evidence. And here's a quote. It says, so if you talk to ChatGPT about your most sensitive stuff, and then there is like a lawsuit or whatever, like we could be required to produce that. So essentially what's going on right now, you have a lot of people going towards and spilling all their, essentially their tea, spilling their entire mind towards this program, ChatGPT. Of course there are others, but essentially I'm reading this to kind of convey an idea that what's going on in the world, especially with this rise in technology, with AI and all these different software. Now AI, this man-made created program, is now becoming like unto a lot of the gods of the ancient times, where people would go and they would kind of like, not just only offer a sacrifice, but they will also they will go to them for questions, go to them for answers, when certain queries began to actually arise, right? When certain things were that they might have experienced, like for example, in the Roman Empire, you had they were called augurs. So augurs were basically they were like soothsayers who used to predict certain events that would play out by basing it was mostly based surrounding observing the behavior of birds. That's where you get the word inauguration from, right? And then the person who practiced that was also known as they practiced augury. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the person that was called an augur, right? But you see this same sentiment that's going on right now, right? And the scriptures talk about how the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, right? So you had empires that were prophesied to come, rise, rule for a time, and then fall, right? It's the same thing in this time, but now ChatGPT is kind of taking that place of that idol, that is essentially lifeless, that a lot of people are now going to for questions and answers, right? So I kind of just wanted to read a couple precepts, and Lord's will, you understand the premise and what's actually going on, right? This is not really like a long piece per se. It's not really an article per se, but it's just very interesting to see that people are going to ChatGPT and these AI softwares for all all their answers, so on and so forth, right? So I guess I'll start off with this one precept here. Just bear with me on this. Let me just open this up. Just bear with me. It's kind of internet's a bit slow. Slakia, my internet's just a little bit slow, so just bear with me. This is okay, I just got the first precept I wanted. This is Proverbs 1 chapter 20. I'm sorry. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 20, and it says, "Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her voice, her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge." Right? So you're not going to find wisdom, understanding in regards to your heritage and who you are by going to these this is more specifically geared towards your Israelites. You're not going to find that understanding on the AI chatbots. You're not going to find it from answering to this idol, because that's all this really is becoming at this point now. Because with all the the knowledge being increased, it has the ability to, yes, gather a lot of information and kind of like summarize the information within the blink of an eye, right? But when it comes to certain prophecies, some hidden mysteries, that pertain to the scriptures, you're not going to find AI for that. That's why I'm reading this precept here, because what you're really going to find, when consulting, the apostles and prophets, right? That's where you're really going to find real wisdom of essentially the ancient, right? Not according to this world, and it's not going to be. There's going to be a lot of more hidden mysteries, right? Consulting the apostles and the prophets and so on and so forth, right? You're not going to get wisdom, right? Because what's wisdom? Wisdom is fear of the Lord, right? And that is something a lot of our people today don't have, right? So you're not going to find it. You're going to find it out there in the streets, in the chief place of concourse, places where business, traffic, commerce is being conducted. Not online. Because think about it this way: in the event there is a cyber attack, in the event there is a how do you call those things? A blackout, power outage, internet, fallout or whatever it is, right? All that information, disappears just like that, right? But it seems to be like in these times, and with all this uncertainty unfolding, people go and they cling to these AI, these man-made versions of idols. You can call it like a virtual idol, right? But it's still man-made at the end of the day. People are going to these things for answers, and a lot of these people would include our people also, right? Okay. Let me go to. I wanted to read something in the Apocrypha here. Just bear with me on this. I think that's. Just bear with me. When I get this other precept to load. This is Wisdom of Solomon 14, verse 7. Bear with me. And it says, "For blessed is the wood whereby righteousness cometh, but that which is made with hands is cursed, as well as he that made it, because he made it, because being corruptible, it was called God," right? So people, especially you have a lot of our people too, that use it, not knowing and understanding, who they are and so on and so forth, what's going on pertaining to the world, and on top of that, a lot of our people take that opportunity to, mock at the Lord's messengers too, having this platform, having this, internet, having TikTok and so on and so forth, right? That's what most of the things that a lot of our people do, right? And now they're venerating this AI to have all the answers. It has, no weaknesses. It has no defects. It has no shortcomings, so to speak, right? So now it's being venerated, as a god now, right? All knowing, so to speak, right? I'll read that again, and it says, verse 8, and it says, but that which is made with hands is cursed, as well as he that made it. He, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible, it was called God. For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto the Most High. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. Right? So all these different gods, they all took different veneration. I'm sorry, not veneration. They took very different names, right? And now in Babylon the Great, and Babylon now the Great is now described as the mother of all harlots, because she essentially encapsulates and possesses all these different idols that were before, were of the ancient times, right? And all these different empires before, whether it's Baal, whether it's Vishnu, whether it was Tammuz, it's all dressed up in some new way, shape, or fashion. Molech, it's all, the sacrifices really pretty much remain the same, right? Those different processes that these different gods required, but it all changed depending on the empire it went through, right? So the scriptures do say that in Ecclesiastes, there is no new thing under the sun. The only thing that's really changed is really just the name, right? But the empires that it changed, the empire, just the name and the empire is what really that changed. But that spirit of that same idol stayed the same, right? The sacrifices, the requirements of what they needed stayed the same, right? So here in this time, now you have people, going to these different gods for answers, questions, queries, right? Where they should really be looking at, the men of the Lord, the prophets, to understand and get essentially a background of what's going on in the world. Because the scriptures do say, seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. None shall want her mate, right? These are the Bible is a living document. It's a book that's alive. It's not a book that people like to scoff at it and think that there is nothing. It's an ancient book, or so on and so forth, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 45 verse 5, and it says, I am the Lord Yahweh, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, right? So the Lord is the only power, right? There's no other power, beside the Lord. The scriptures say that for all of the gods are idols, to roughly paraphrase, but the Lord Yahweh Bashim El Shai made the heavens. All these idols are fake, and that includes AI, because now it's seen as it can do no wrong. It has no flaws, but all these different, it's just something that's still made with men's hands, right? In the ancient times, you had more of the idols that were physical, right? They were either made of stone, they were made of wood, they were made of branches, but today it's still, technology is still something that was given, unto Esau, that understanding, right? But it's still an idol that people cling to give them therapy, to give them answers, to give them questions, and so on and so forth, right? Let me jump across. 1 second. to Sirach. Just bear with me. Okay, I'll start at verse 1 and read down to 6. And it says, Sirach 39, verse 1. And it says, But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies, right? So you're not going to find, wisdom. AI will be able to answer certain things, but there are just certain hidden mysteries, right? Because in Amos it says, surely the Lord will reveal nothing but his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, right? So there are just certain things that, it just shows you the shortcomings of AI, because the Lord really is the one that has all, understanding, right? And he gave it unto specific groups of people, right? AKA, the prophets. He didn't give it to, AI is going to have its it's going to have its ability, but to know the ways of the Lord. Our people really should be going to seeking out the Lord through his prophets, through his messengers, right? So it says, verse 2, and it says, he will keep the sayings of renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of the grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes, and will travel through strange countries. For he hath tried the good and evil among men. He will give his heart to the Lord, to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer, and make supplications for his sins. And that's true, right? Because if you think about it, AI is not teaching you Israelites to actually repent and come back to the Lord, right? That is not something that people are looking to. They're trying to get answers, but because they don't know that, if you think everything is all good, and you are all good, and you have no shortcomings, and you did no wrong, you're not going to think that you have to make supplication for your sins, right? If you don't see the defects in you as a person, you're not going to want to go and inquire of the Lord to try and get answers. And that's the mindset of not just our people, but people here in the West in general. Because there's so much pride engulfed in this society, people think that they can't do no wrong, and they don't really have any sins to pay for. They don't, they think, their SHIT don't stink, right? That's the mindset, because there's so much pride, in this society. So if you think you're all good, why need a physician? Why would you think you need Yahweh Shai, right? It says, verse 6, and when the great Lord Yahweh, Bashem Shai, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding, and shall pour out wise sentences, and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer, right? Because, and the apostles always push the importance of prayer too, because the scriptures do say the prayers, humbleth the clouds. And that was one of the things when you go through the different accounts of our different forefathers, and even some of our foremothers too, they prayed, especially where they were in situations and times of trouble. And that is something, and that is understanding you'll get, when you go through the scriptures, when you counsel with godly men, these men that the Lord has set up, right? Because the scriptures talk about how the things that are written aforetime are written for our learning, right? So you had, certain kings, I'm just using King Hezekiah, for example, that prayed, right? Susanna, she prayed, right? When Yahushua was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed, right? There were moments when they prayed when they were going to face moments of essentially distress. I think there was an account with Daniel, he also prayed, right? That it shows you the importance of prayer, and those are the shortcomings of AI. When people are going to these tools, these man-made tools, essentially it's now venerated as a god in this world, but it's not giving you the proper direction and counsel and answers that you need, specifically for you Israelites, right? Because all these other nations, they have their own idols, right? So that's pretty much the point. I kind of just wanted to touch on that because it's very interesting to see that it's now becoming a method where people go and they counsel with AI for wisdom and understanding and so on and so forth, right? But you're not going to get that from a man-made tool that's made with hands, right? So anyways, I'll leave the lesson there, but Lord's will, as always, this lesson was edifying. Just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem El Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.